The mysterious invitation. Damon Sterling, Earth's ambassador to the stars, stood at the grand bay window of his office, gazing out over the sprawling metropolis below. The city was alive with activity, its towering skyscrapers reflecting the light of the setting sun, casting long shadows over the streets. Spaceports buzzed with the arrival and departure of ships from every corner of the galaxy. The hum of intergalactic commerce filled the air, and the calm of the evening was a rare moment of peace for the diplomat. Despite the beauty of the moment, Damon's mind was elsewhere. He was lost in thought, turning over the events of the past few weeks. An emergency peace summit with the Draconians, tense negotiations with the Nexus Alliance, and endless rounds of formal dinners and social calls. The life of a galactic ambassador was a demanding one, and though he was proud of his work, there was something wearying about the constant balancing act. Humanity's place in the galaxy was tenuous at best, and Damon worked tirelessly to ensure Earth remained an equal partner in the vast cosmic web of alliances. A sudden, quiet chime broke his reverie, pulling him from his thoughts. It was an alert on his holopad. A message had arrived. A simple flash of golden script appeared on the screen, and at first glance, it seemed to be yet another diplomatic request. However, the name that accompanied it made Damon pause. Queen Aurelia of the Asterian Empire. His eyebrows furrowed slightly. The Asterians were a powerful and mysterious species, known for their technologically advanced civilization and their unyielding influence in galactic politics. Queen Aurelia, the enigmatic monarch who ruled the Asterian Empire, was a figure surrounded by intrigue and rumors. Few had ever even seen her in person, let alone been invited into her inner circle. Her empire was vast, stretching across multiple star systems, but was also shrouded in secrecy. No one truly understood the full scope of her power or the depth of her ambitions. The message was brief, yet it carried an undeniable weight. It simply read, "Ambassador Damon Sterling, we humbly request your presence at a grand feast in our palace. This is not a mere diplomatic gathering, but an occasion of great importance to our people. Your presence is essential. Join us to experience the true heart of the Asterian Empire." As he read the words, a shiver of uncertainty crept down Damon's spine. It wasn't the invitation itself that unsettled him. It was the tone. There was an underlying urgency in the message, a subtle implication that this was no ordinary banquet. It was as if Queen Aurelia herself had specifically chosen him for something more profound than mere conversation. The screen flickered, and an image of the Asterian palace appeared. The architecture was unlike anything Damon had ever seen. The palace itself was an ethereal structure, its crystalline towers gleaming like diamonds against the deep purple sky of the Asterian homeworld. The palace seemed to hover above the surface of the planet, supported by an unknown force, with cascading waterfalls of glowing liquid streaming down the sides. The sight was both awe-inspiring and intimidating, a testament to the Asterians' mastery over the forces of nature. Damon's heart raced, his curiosity piqued. He had heard rumors of the Asterians' mysterious customs, their cryptic rituals, and the way they chose their allies with such care. But this invitation was different. This was a direct summons from the Queen herself. There was no room for hesitation. Preparing for the unknown. After receiving the message, Damon spent the next several hours preparing for the journey. His diplomatic attire was ceremonial, a custom-made suit of rich brown fabric that blended traditional Earth style with a hint of futuristic flair. It was a symbol of his role as Earth's representative in the cosmos. However, it wasn't enough for this particular occasion. No, this was something far more significant. His outfit had to reflect the gravity of the situation. He was fitted into a gleaming set of golden ceremonial armor, an honorary gift from the Galactic Federation, awarded to him for his distinguished service in brokering peace between warring factions. The armor was intricately designed, its polished surface catching the light and radiating a sense of both strength and elegance. A chain of silver, accented with precious stones, draped from his neck, and his well-groomed beard and mustache framed his face with an air of aristocratic authority. Despite the formal attire, Damon's face remained calm and collected, betraying none of the excitement and anxiety that churned within him. The invitation was far too intriguing to pass up, and as Damon made his way to the spaceport, the weight of the moment began to settle in. He was about to embark on a journey that would take him to the heart of Asterian power, into the very presence of Queen Aurelia herself. But why had she invited him? What could the Queen, one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy, want with a simple human ambassador? The journey to the Asterian Empire. The journey to the Asterian homeworld was swift, as the ship's engines hummed with precision. As the ship pierced through the vast expanse of space, Damon could not shake the growing sense of unease. The stars outside seemed to flicker in the distance, but his mind was focused solely on the unknown ahead. The Asterian system was as breathtaking as it was intimidating. Upon entering the system, Damon's ship passed through a series of shimmering energy fields, designed to protect the sacred homeworld of the Asterians. The view from the observation deck was surreal. The pale blue light of the system's twin suns illuminated the stars, casting an otherworldly glow on the surface of the planet below. As they approached the palace, Damon's breath caught in his throat. The palace was not just a building, but a living, breathing monument to Asterian culture. The architecture appeared to grow organically from the very surface of the planet, as though it had been birthed by the cosmos itself. As the shuttle descended, the Asterian cityscape stretched beneath them, sprawling across the planet's surface. The buildings rose in elegant curves and sleek angles, each one more impressive than the last. The air smelled of exotic spices and the faint scent of flowers that were foreign to Earth. The shuttle docked at a sprawling spaceport near the palace, and Damon was escorted through a maze of dazzling corridors, each more opulent than the last. Arrival at the palace. When Damon finally arrived at the grand feast hall, he was stunned into silence. The room was unlike anything he had ever seen. The ceiling soared high above, its surface a mass of swirling lights and patterns that seemed to shift and change with the movement of the crowd. Floating tables drifted in the air, defying gravity as they hovered above the floor. The guests, many of them alien species from across the galaxy, were seated around these tables, talking in low murmurs. The hall was alive with the hum of conversation, but something about the atmosphere felt different, almost surreal. And then she appeared. Queen Aurelia descended the grand staircase, her presence so commanding that it was as if the very air in the room shifted in response. Her pale skin glowed with an ethereal light, and her long silken hair flowed down her back like a cascade of starlight. Her golden eyes locked onto Damon's, and for a moment, the world seemed to stand still. "Ambassador Sterling," she said, her voice like honey and steel, drawing his full attention. "You have honored us with your presence. Tonight, we celebrate not just our alliances, but the future of the Asterian Empire." Her words, soft yet powerful, echoed in the hall, and Damon's thoughts raced. What could this future mean for him? What role had he been invited to play in the vast, unknown plans of the Asterian Empire? The feast had begun, and Damon knew that this night would change the course of his life. But little did he know, the true reason for his invitation was something far beyond mere diplomacy. It was something that would forever intertwine his fate with the Asterian royal family. The Queen's feast, a royal revelation. As Damon stepped forward into the grand feast hall, the weight of the moment seemed to settle over him like a cloak. The room was bathed in the soft glow of floating lights, casting long, soft shadows against the walls. The air was thick with a mix of foreign fragrances and an undercurrent of mystery. He was acutely aware of every step he took, the soft echo of his boots on the polished floors mingling with the hushed murmurs of the gathered guests. The entire hall was alive, yet it felt strangely still, as if time itself had slowed in reverence to the presence of the Queen. Queen Aurelia descended from the grand staircase slowly, her every movement deliberate and mesmerizing. Her golden eyes, so bright they almost seemed to glow in the dim light, were fixed on him with an intensity that made him feel as though she could peer right into his soul. There was no doubt about it. This was a woman of immense power, someone who had shaped the Asterian Empire with a singular vision. Her appearance was like nothing Damon had ever seen. She was the epitome of grace, with her translucent golden gown flowing effortlessly around her body, as if the fabric itself were alive. Her long, platinum hair cascaded down her back in gentle waves, and as she moved, it shimmered with a celestial light that seemed to come from within. She was not just beautiful. She radiated an almost otherworldly magnetism that drew every eye in the room. Damon felt a brief pang of discomfort. It wasn't just her beauty. It was the undeniable aura of authority she carried. Even the air around her seemed to shift in response to her presence. It was as though she was no longer just a person but a force of nature, commanding the attention of every being in the hall. He swallowed, his throat suddenly dry, and forced himself to meet her gaze. "Ambassador Sterling," she said, her voice a melodic blend of warmth and authority that seemed to wrap around him like a silk cloak. "I am honored by your presence this evening. Earth has long been an ally of the Asterian Empire, but tonight is not simply about diplomatic talks. Tonight, we celebrate something far more profound." Damon straightened, his diplomatic instincts kicking in. "Your Majesty, it is a privilege to be here. I've heard many stories of your empire and your people, but I must admit, I never expected an invitation to such an event." Aurelia's lips curled into a smile, one that was both inviting and calculating, as if she were amused by his response. She motioned for him to follow her, leading him toward the high table that had been set aside for her most esteemed guests. As they walked, she spoke softly, as though imparting a secret meant only for his ears. "The Asterian Empire is not just a collection of worlds," she said, her voice low and rich with meaning. "We are a unified force, bound together by blood, honor, and tradition. And tonight, we honor that very tradition. You, Ambassador Sterling, are an integral part of something much larger than you may realize." Damon felt a jolt of surprise at her words. He had expected pleasantries, polite small talk about the state of the galaxy, perhaps some light-hearted conversation about trade agreements or future negotiations. But this was different. There was something unspoken in her words, something that hinted at a deeper, more personal agenda. Aurelia paused before sitting down at the head of the table and gestured for him to take the seat beside her. It was a position of high honor, one that did not go unnoticed by the other guests. Damon's eyes briefly scanned the room. All around them, various alien species mingled, their laughter and chatter blending into a cacophony of strange, lilting languages. The air was alive with conversation, but Damon could not shake the feeling that he was being watched, studied, even. He glanced at the other guests more closely. The majority of them were Asterian, their gold eyes gleaming as they observed the proceedings with a quiet intensity. There were a few representatives from other worlds, but they seemed almost inconsequential in comparison. It was clear that this event was more for the Asterians than for anyone else. As they settled into their seats, several servants appeared, each one carrying exquisite dishes of food that seemed to defy the laws of physics. There were fruits that shimmered with an iridescent glow, each bite releasing a burst of flavor so intense that it made Damon's head spin. There were delicate pastries that seemed to melt in his mouth, and strange, liquid-like drinks that swirled in their glass containers, changing colors with each passing moment. The entire dining experience felt like an art form. Every dish was a spectacle in and of itself. Damon's attention, however, was not on the food. His eyes remained fixed on Queen Aurelia, whose presence seemed to dominate the room. She had yet to take a bite of her own meal, her hands resting delicately on the edge of her plate as she observed him with those penetrating golden eyes. "Tell me, Ambassador," she said suddenly, her tone shifting slightly. "What do you think of our Asterian hospitality? Is it as impressive as your expectations?" Damon paused, taking in the magnificence of the feast before him. "It is unlike anything I've ever experienced, Your Majesty," he replied, choosing his words carefully. The food, the atmosphere, it's all otherworldly. Aurelia's smile widened, but there was a flicker of something darker in her eyes. And yet, you have not asked why you have been invited here, have you? Damon's heart skipped a beat. Her question was not a casual inquiry. It was a challenge, one that he could feel deep in his bones. He had prepared for this event, expected it to be a simple diplomatic occasion. But now he realized that there was more at play than just pleasantries. The Queen leaned forward slightly, her gaze never leaving his. "You see, Ambassador," she continued, her voice dropping to a near whisper, "we Asterians value strength, physical, mental, and genetic. And tonight, we celebrate the most important of our traditions, a tradition that has been passed down for centuries." Damon furrowed his brow. The tension in the air had shifted, turning from a pleasant formality to something far more charged. "A tradition?" he asked, his curiosity piqued. "Yes," she replied, her voice a silky purr. "The future of the Asterian Empire is secured through bloodlines, through the strongest genetic matches available. The laws of our empire dictate that royal succession must be achieved through the union of the most suitable candidates. And Ambassador Sterling," she paused for effect, allowing the silence to stretch between them. "You, my dear Ambassador, have been chosen as the most viable candidate." Damon's mind reeled. For a moment, he couldn't speak. His heart raced, and his pulse hammered in his ears. The food in front of him suddenly seemed distant, irrelevant. He was only half listening as Aurelia continued. "You will ensure the future of our people, Ambassador," she said softly, "through my daughters." A royal proposition. The words that Queen Aurelia had spoken hung in the air, thick and heavy. Damon sat frozen, his eyes locked on the Queen, as the gravity of her statement settled over him like a storm. The very idea that he, a humble Earth ambassador, could be chosen for such a monumental role in the Asterian Empire was incomprehensible. His mind raced, his thoughts colliding in a storm of confusion and disbelief. Yet, despite the shock, a small part of him wondered if it wasn't exactly what he had always wanted, to be a part of something greater, something that would shape the future of not just Earth, but the entire galaxy. But then, the realization came crashing down. This wasn't about diplomacy. It wasn't about peace treaties or trade agreements. It wasn't even about strengthening human-Asterian relations. No, Damon had been chosen for something far more personal, something that, in a strange way, felt like both an honor and a terrifying curse. Queen Aurelia's golden eyes never left him as she waited for his response, her expression unreadable. The air between them pulsed with tension, as though the entire hall had grown still, holding its breath in anticipation of what would come next. Her daughters, whom Damon had noticed earlier, now seemed to watch him with the same intensity, their golden eyes flickering with a mix of curiosity and something far more primal. "Ambassador Sterling," Aurelia said, breaking the silence. "As I mentioned, the future of our people, our empire, relies on securing the strongest genetic bloodlines. And after much deliberation, the Council has chosen you as the prime candidate to ensure the strength of the Asterian royal line. You possess qualities we have long sought in a partner for my daughters: intelligence, strength, and an unmatched adaptability that has made you a star in the galactic diplomatic community." Damon swallowed hard. His throat felt dry, and his stomach twisted into knots. He had heard of strange customs and practices in the far reaches of the galaxy, but this was beyond anything he had ever imagined. "You must understand, Ambassador," Aurelia continued, her voice soft yet firm. "This is not a decision made lightly. My daughters, as you have seen, are not only beautiful, but they are also among the most powerful beings in the galaxy. They are the heirs to the Asterian throne, and their future, our future, depends on the strength of the bond they create with you. You have been selected because of your unique genetic compatibility with them, something that will ensure the continuation of our royal lineage." Damon felt his head spinning. "But I don't understand," he stammered, his voice betraying his growing anxiety. "What exactly does this mean? Why me? There must be someone else, someone more suited to this role. I'm just an ambassador. I didn't come here for anything like this." Aurelia's smile was both soothing and inscrutable. "It means, ambassador, that you are not just a representative of your people anymore. You are about to become a key figure in the future of the Asterian Empire, and in return for your service, Earth will benefit greatly. Your planet will be assured a place of influence within our empire, a position of power that would otherwise remain out of reach." Damon felt a cold shiver run down his spine. He had come to this feast expecting a routine diplomatic engagement, but now he found himself caught in something far more intricate, far more dangerous. His mind raced, trying to grasp the full scope of what was being asked of him. He was being offered power, influence, and the future of intergalactic relations. But at what cost? "What exactly is expected of me?" Damon asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Aurelia leaned in closer, her golden eyes narrowing slightly, as though she were reading his very thoughts. "You are to bond with my daughters," she said simply, her words carrying an undeniable weight. "This bond will ensure the future of our royal line, a lineage that has guided the Asterian Empire for millennia. Through you, we will secure our genetic strength, ensuring that our people remain at the top of the galactic hierarchy for centuries to come." The words were blunt, and the implications were clear. Damon was being asked to engage in an intimate relationship with the Queen's daughters, a union that would be the foundation of the Empire's future. His mind reeled at the thought. He had known that Asterian politics were strange, but this was beyond anything he had anticipated. And yet, despite the shock, a part of him couldn't help but wonder if this wasn't exactly what Earth needed, a chance to secure a foothold in the galaxy's power structure, something that had always seemed so elusive. But it wasn't just about politics. Damon found himself torn between his sense of duty and his personal feelings. Could he truly go through with such an arrangement? The consequences of refusing would be monumental, and the consequences of accepting were no less daunting. The Queen's daughters, a mysterious allure. As Damon sat in stunned silence, his gaze drifted toward Aurelia's daughters, who were now gathered around the table. They were striking, each one possessing the same ethereal beauty as their mother, their golden eyes gleaming with an almost predatory intensity. Their faces were serene, but there was something in their expressions, a flicker of desire, curiosity, and something darker, that made Damon feel like a piece of prey under their watchful gaze. The eldest daughter, a tall and regal figure with flowing silver hair and a gown of shimmering gold, caught his eye. She was seated on the opposite side of the table, her gaze fixed on him, with an intensity that sent an unexpected shiver down his spine. Her eyes were piercing, sharp as a blade, and yet there was something strangely captivating about her presence. The other daughters were no less striking, each one more beautiful than the last, their golden eyes gleaming with the same magnetic force. Damon couldn't help but notice the way they subtly leaned in toward him, their movements synchronized, as if they were all part of some greater design. The air between them crackled with anticipation, and Damon realized that, for all their beauty and power, they were not just Asterian royalty. They were also pawns in a much larger game, a game that he had been unknowingly drawn into. Aurelia's voice interrupted his thoughts. "Do not worry, Ambassador," she said, her smile never faltering. "My daughters are eager to meet you. They have been briefed on your role, and they understand the importance of this bond. This is not just a matter of physical attraction. It is a union that will ensure the future of our people, of our legacy." Damon's heart raced in his chest. It was clear that he had little choice in the matter. Whether he wanted to or not, he had been chosen for this role, and refusing would bring consequences that were too dire to contemplate. The weight of the decision pressed heavily on him, and for a moment, he found himself wondering if he would ever be able to escape the Asterian web that had ensnared him. The daughter's proposal. As if on cue, the eldest daughter, the one who had been watching him most intently, rose from her seat and made her way toward him. Her movements were fluid, almost hypnotic, as if she were gliding through the air. She stopped just short of where he sat, her golden eyes never leaving his. "Ambassador Sterling," she said, her voice a soft, melodic whisper. "I understand this is a lot to take in. But rest assured, this is an opportunity for greatness, for both you and your people. If you accept this bond, you will not just be securing our future. You will be ensuring that Earth, too, has a place among the stars. My sisters and I have been chosen for this role, and we would be honored to share this destiny with you." The weight of her words hung in the air, and Damon's mind raced. He had come here as a diplomat, expecting to represent Earth in a simple, straightforward manner. But now, it seemed as though he had been chosen for a role far beyond anything he could have anticipated. He was not just a representative of Earth. He was the key to the future of both Earth and the Asterian Empire. The daughters of Aurelia were beautiful, powerful, and enigmatic, but Damon could feel the underlying tension in the air. This was not just a matter of diplomacy or politics. It was personal, intimate, and above all, dangerous.